So we have racial and ethnic limitations, even within racial groups. You go to black countries, and within those black countries, there are ethnic groups, and some ethnic groups are discriminated against. Some people think their ethnic group is superior to the other, or their family is superior to the other. We have academic limitations. People who did not attend the best schools feel limited because the society places value on the name of the school and not the knowledge acquired by an individual. So if somebody attended Harvard University, you assume he's smart. It's an assumption. It's a conferment of importance and value based on association with a reputation of a school. And if somebody went to a community school somewhere in a neighborhood, it is assumed he's not that smart. It's a limitation. The biggest limitation really is not what people place on you, it's what you place on yourself. And if we're going to be excellent, we have to deal with limitations. Limitations are set by four things. Number one, examples. The examples you see. And all of us grew up in life following examples. Your parents, the people in your neighborhood, your teacher, your pastor, your church. If everybody in your church was poor, they set an example of poverty for you. And you begin to accept poverty as the boundary for you to exist in. As a matter of fact, if you've seen the example of poverty for so long, when you prosper, you feel guilty. You feel uneasy with your prosperity because that is not the example you saw. There's a boundary set for you. If you buy this kind of car, you have crossed the boundary. And you feel like you've committed an illegality. Because your boundary is the boundary of poverty. It's an example, you saw it. Secondly, limitations are set by experiences. Things you go through yourself. Human experiences are so powerful because they leave an indelible print on your mind as to what is due you and what is not due you. I've said here previously, I am the third boy in succession. That's why I'm called Mensa. Mensa in my language means third boy in succession. So everything I received from childhood had gone through 3 generations. My older brother wears it, passes it on to the second one, and then he passes it on to me. Everything I wore as a child was used. Gone through 3 generations. My shoes were 3rd generation. Shirts were 3rd generation. Underwear, 3rd generation. Everything was 3rd generation. That was my experience. As a result, I couldn't use new things. And I realized at a point when I had things which were new, I felt uncomfortable with them. If I had new clothes, I had to keep them to be old before I wore them. Because my experience limited me to old things. I had to deliberately break that. Consciously. I still work on that. And what I do is most times when I go shopping, I can go to the store. If I buy a new shoe, immediately I wear it. Immediately. I mean, I take off what I'm wearing and wear the new one right there. Because I'm dealing with a limitation of an experience in my mind as to what is due me, what is possible for me, and what is impossible for me. Third, limitations are set by exposure. What you've been exposed to. Exposure is crucial. That's why it's important to travel. If you've never traveled, you are very, very narrow-minded. Save some money and travel. Travel and see. Open your eyes to other things which are not immediately available in your community. Exposure is so crucial. It stretches your patience and tells you there are other spaces beyond the space you are occupying now. Limitations, finally, are set by your expectations, what you expect out of life. What do you expect? What do you look forward to? What do you anticipate to happen to you? And the things you expect, to a large extent, are the things you attract to yourself. When God sets out to raise a leader, he normally works to create exposure for the person. David is going to be king, but he's never seen how a king behaves. He's never been in a courtyard. He's only been around sheep. You can be a good shepherd, but ruling people is not the same as ruling sheep. Sheep have only one word, bah. Human beings have a wide vocabulary, and they can express themselves in more profound ways. Sheep are easily satisfied. Human beings have very complex needs. So what did God do? He took David out and exposed him to a king called Saul. Exposure to understand the intrigues of life. That life is not as simple as watching over sheep. The human beings can be treacherous, they are complex, they can scheme, they can destroy. The simple-minded person assumes that everybody is good. Pretty soon you'll find the world is quite an interesting place to live in. That's why Jesus Christ said, therefore be wise as serpents, as innocent as doves. It's a complexity of character. I'm going to deal with that later. But God wants us to have expectations of life which are realistic and which are based on the real things that happen in life. The antidote to limitations is the pursuit of excellence. If you're going to break your limitations, you have to pursue excellence. Say with me, excellence. That's why I said that there are two kinds of limitations: the protective and the preventive. When I talk about going beyond your limitations, I'm referring to the second one: preventive, negative limitations. And if you're going to go beyond that, you have to have a spirit of excellence. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 29. Proverbs 31:29, it says, many daughters have done well, but you have excelled them all. Many daughters have done well, but you have excelled them all. A literal rendering of that verse would read, many daughters have done well, but you have climbed higher than them all. You have climbed higher than them all. So what is excellence? Are you fine? Okay, go to the next. It's not on?